Alright everybody, it's Dr. Siddiq Rahman here, and I want to thank you for joining me on this video, which is entitled, I have done my first Botox course, now what? This video is primarily for those who are in their early stages of their aesthetic career. So you may have done your first Botox filler course. You may even be a little bit further down the road, and that you may already be starting to practice with some patients, or maybe you are actually still thinking about doing a foundation Botox and filler course, and you're just starting to dip your toe in, and maybe thinking a couple of steps ahead. And what you're thinking of is, well, once I've done this this training course, all very exciting. I've got my shiny certificate, but now what do I do? Now, for those of you who don't know me, I run my own clinic in South Wales. I also work in a large, very prestigious clinic in central London, as well as being a part-time general practitioner. So I've got my fingers in quite a lot of pies, and my business involves working in several different places geographically and in different clinics. So I did my first Botox course in 2011, so I've spent some time in this industry. I actually opened up my own clinic in 2014, so it took a good few years to really start to develop my place in the industry. Although to be fair, I was working in full-time general practice at the time, so it took me longer than possibly it might take you if, for example, you are jumping in head first, all guns blazing. And if you are, then that's great. You can achieve great things if you are really committed to to working in this industry and really making a name for yourself. But you should be aware, if you're not already, that just because you know how to inject people's faces doesn't mean necessarily that you can run a business. So if you've completed your course, your 1-day or your 2-day course, you have your certificate. Happy days. That means that certificate, that piece of paper, just basically says you've attended a course. It does not mean that you are competent in Botox or fillers, because you have spent all of maybe 2 days. It does not mean that you suddenly have multiple clients, beating at your door, ready for you to fill toxin and fillers into their face. And it certainly doesn't mean that you're making money right off of the bat. In short, just because you have a certificate doesn't mean that you have a business. In fact, you do not at that stage. So unless you come specifically from a business background, then you're going to find that there's a whole bunch of other skills that you're going to have to learn very quickly. And the kind of people who I might work with, like trained doctors, nurses, dentists, and vast majority of these guys will have come from the NHS background, and vast majority of them will have never really had to consider the business side of things. You go to work, you come home, you get a pay slip at the end of the month. That's generally how it works. It's already taxed at source, so that bit's taken care of as well. So you don't really have to think about things like what your expenditures will be, for example, for equipment and so forth. In general, that's all about to change. So there's a lot of things that need to be thought of, and then to run a successful business, you have to be able to understand what your costs and expenditures are, as well as the money coming in. But I'm not a small business guru or somebody who's an expert in how to start a business per such. But I will give some pointers on things like that in another video in due course. The key thing in my mind is to get practicing, because if you want to have any level of success in this business, you have to have competence. And as I said earlier, just because you've done a 2-day course, that does not make you competent. That means that you have seen it being done and you've probably practiced on a couple of patients. So your ongoing practicing and your ongoing learning are absolutely vital to your future success in the industry. Just a little outline of my path in this business, and I'll keep this short. As I said, I did my first Botox course in 2011. and I went in with another doctor, another GP actually, who was practicing, was starting off around about the same time, and we started working with a mutual colleague who was a dentist. They had a room to spare, and we were able to use that room to practice Botox and fillers. After a while, I decided to go it alone, and I found some premises in a beauty spa. And as I was the only practitioner of Botox and fillers within that building, that worked very well, and we were able to do some synergies in terms of the products and the services that they were offering, in conjunction with what I was offering as well. So, there are things that you can do to work with other people to help build your business, and also had the advantage that I was able to use some of their computer systems, their marketing systems, and indeed their reception room as well. So that helped a lot. And that's in South Wales, and that business is ongoing to this day. And the business in London, where I started working there, having joined in with a bigger clinic, as an opportunity came up for me to do so. And again, I'll cover that in more detail in another video. But there are various ways into this industry. I'm going to cover 5 in this particular video that hopefully will be a little bit useful for you in terms of how you can progress from having a certificate to actually having a business. So option number one is to use someone else's premises. Now, as I was saying earlier on, when you're using somebody else's rooms, that means that you will obviously have to pay them probably a small fee to do so, but it means that you get a foot in the door. You have a room that, it may not even be that your room that you'll be using all the time. It might be a room that you're sharing with somebody else, and they'll have it on different days. But the point is, you have somewhere to practice from. And that's quite important, because you may well be able to keep your equipment there, because there will be quite a lot of equipment, and you'll want to avoid having to lug everything around with you every time that you're doing your practice. And it's nice to have somewhere where your clients, your patients, will know that this is where they will see you when they're when they're coming to have their treatment. So that's a good way to start. If you're early on and you are just kind of looking to find somewhere to start practicing from. Option number 2 is to open a clinic within other premises. Now, this is where this is what I did now to run my own clinic, the Dr. SR Beauty Clinic in South Wales. I moved into a room. I actually rented a couple of rooms within a spa, and that allowed me then to do my business. And that was a room that I was using. It was just for myself, which made life a lot easier for me, because again, storage was good. I could keep my computer equipment there. I was able to keep an office running from there, which meant that again, there are expenditures to that, there are costs to that, but this is something that you can consider later on. Also, you'll find just by asking around that there are places who would like an aesthetic person to work with, or indeed by partnering up with somebody else, you can even start getting a business going with somebody else's client list, because maybe their client list is too big for them to handle, and they are taking somebody on to help, and you can add your expertise in there. Plus, also gives the opportunity to train up and get better in what you're doing. Which brings me to option number 3 of joining in on a larger clinic. And a lot of people do this, and there are a lot of these big clinics which are expanding. A lot of them are opening new branches, and they are looking for they're looking for people to come in to work for them to do the injecting. If you go along to the conferences, or if you're at the or if you're just reading kind of LinkedIn and or the trade magazines, you find that clinics everywhere are looking for people to help them, and you can jump in on some of those, and particularly useful if you want to get some mentorship and help with really sort of getting better at what you're learning to do, because as we said earlier, practice. Your technique only gets better when you are injecting plenty of people and getting a feel of what's really involved, because what you were shown in these courses and what you're necessarily reading possibly in the textbooks that you're reading, when you get out in the real world, you'll find that it is most certainly not one size fits all, and you'll almost certainly find out that what you thought you had to do, everybody else will have a different opinion on how somebody should be treated. So you've got to find your own style and your own way of doing things. Option number 4, you could convert a room in your own home, or even something like a shed or a garage. Now, I know people who've done this. It's not easy. It takes time to do, but it can work extremely well. Some of my friends and colleagues have done this very, very successfully, and hopefully in future videos I'll get to show you some of the work that they've done. Beautiful clinics they've designed in their own back gardens, or converted a garage, and so that saves having to find other premises, because you already own that plot of land or that space. Now, if you have the space to do that, amazing, by all means go for it. It will, as I say, save you the time of looking for a space, and it'll save you the cost of renting from somewhere else. Of course, what you've got to bear in mind is that if you live in a residential area, for example, and suddenly you have a business where lots of people are coming to your home, and suddenly there's all these cars parked outside your house, and that's spilling over into other people's driveways and pavement space or whatever, they may not be particularly happy. So they could quite easily, and I've seen this happen, they could object to the council that you're using your house as a business purpose where it's not supposed to, especially if you haven't had permission to do so. So there's various pros and cons to that particular strategy, but it is one that lots of people have made work extremely well. And finally, option 5 is home visiting. Now, I do know some people who've done this as well. Their entire job is as a quote-unquote mobile clinic. So they keep their stuff in their car, they drive around to people's houses or places of business and do their work there. Now, it's not that you can't do this. The regulations are a bit vague on what you can and can't do. It is, after all, medical treatments that you're offering. But again, there's nothing particularly stopping you from doing so. It's more about the practicalities. Are you working in a place which is safe? Are there obstructions? Are there animals? Can you guarantee hygiene, safety, not just for you, but for your patient as well? Because those things are paramount. If there's blood spillage, it's quite possible that your patient might not particularly appreciate sort of blood on their carpet or on their rug or so forth. Is the lighting going to be suitable? Do you have means of backup or help if there's a problem? So while this last option is almost certainly the one that involves the least outlay, something worth thinking about: is it worth the stress of doing so? But as and you may well have seen that there are plenty of people who go and do home visits for treatments and so forth. So you've got to think, is that something that you can make work? But that's one thing you can do. Oh, and there is one last option, which is do the treatments from your car. I really implore you not to do that. Just don't be that person. There's nothing safe about that. You're running a lot of risks there, and the legality of that is very, very, very dodgy indeed. So that, in a nutshell, is a short list of options for getting yourself started into a business. Like I say, we'll cover more stuff on how to set up your business in the future. Hopefully you found that useful. I'll pop some links down below as well as to how to get in contact with me. And if you have any questions, please pop them into the case down below, and hopefully I shall see you soon on the next video. And if there's anything particular that you would like me to talk about in terms of how to get your business started, or how to, or in clinical terms, things you'd like to cover, by all means, I'm delighted to hear suggestions. I'm Dr. Rahman. Have a great day.